я принял решение о новой структуре правительства, состоящего из 12 министров, порядка 30 комитетов.
I have made a decision about a new structure of the government. It will consist of 12 ministers and about 30 committees, instead of the existing 17 ministries, 9 agencies, 54 committees, and 272 departments. Do you catch the difference? Instead of 17 ministries, there will be 12. Instead of 54 committees, there will be 30. All the 9 agencies will become part of the ministries in the form of committees. The government will take care of the 272 departments.
Посоветовавшись с правительством, в парламенте,
So, having consulted the government and the parliament, I have made the decision. There will be 5 new ministries. The Ministry of National Economy shall absorb the Ministry of Economy and Budget Planning, the Ministry of Regional Development, the Statistics Agency, the Agency for Regulation of Natural Monopolies, the Agency for Protection of Competition, and the Agency for Consumer Protection. They all are going to be part of this ministry. And while we are at it, and all the media representatives are here, I would like to continue by saying that upon consulting the Prime Minister, I made a decision to appoint Yerbolat Dosayev as the minister. He is competent, he used to work in the Ministry of Finance, he used to work as healthcare minister, and he used to work in business. Then we invited him back to the government, and he is doing a good job. He is young, and he has a good command of English. But if you start confusing pockets, confusing state service with your business, you will be fired the next day. This applies to everyone. However, there is no sin in hiring experienced people from business circles so that they can help with their expertise.
Министерство здравоохранения и социального развития объединяются.
The Ministries of Healthcare and of Social Protection shall be joined into one. The new ministry shall be called the Ministry of Health and Social Development. By the way, the ministers whose jobs are being cut, they are not in the wrong. The government, on my instruction, will find them jobs. And they will be working as deputy ministers responsible for the same fields of work as before. As for the head of the Ministry of Regional Development, Zhamyshev, if you are ready, we will put you in command of the Development Bank of Kazakhstan. Kondik, do you agree? Do you agree? Okay, see, you're not going to stay idle. We will get down to the other part of the structure in time. The Ministry of Health and Social Development shall absorb the functions and powers of the Ministries of Healthcare and the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. Tamara Dusenova shall be appointed the minister. Kayarbekova has not done anything wrong. There were no faults in her work, so, if we have your consent, you will stay as her first deputy minister and will continue in the same field of work as before. Third, the Ministry of Culture and Sport shall absorb the functions and powers of the Ministry of Culture, the Agency for Religious Affairs, and the Agency for Sports and Physical Activities. Muhamediev shall be the minister of the newly created ministry. I think that physical education and sport are also part of the realm of culture. Tourism could be added here too, but tourism industry belongs to the industry. You may sit down. I think that he is a qualified expert in the field of culture, who is respected by his colleagues, and he will make a good leader. Social issues are very important, and since Dusenova is managing them well, I hope that you will be working together, because social issues and healthcare are interdependent. Next, the Ministry of Investment and Development. It shall absorb the functions and powers of the Ministry of Industry and New Technologies, the Ministry of Transport and Communications, the Agency for Communication and Information, and the National Space Agency. Besides, it will be dealing with energy efficiency and geology.
Также закрепляется за этим министерством. Значит,
Asset Isarkeshev shall be appointed to this office. You know that he has been working all these years, has gained a lot of experience, and he will be continuing his work. Hence, you will be overseeing the same scope of issues as those you were working on as Deputy Prime Minister, but without the Deputy Prime Minister title. We will make the necessary legal changes to vest you with the authorities so that being a minister, you can still make the decisions. You may sit down. The Minister of Transport and Communications, Jenis Kasenbek, shall be the first deputy. You will be hot on his heels, you will be there as a backup power. Another deputy position shall be occupied by Askar Zhumagaliyev, who will also continue in his own field of work. You're all young, everything is ahead of you. You should help spearhead our economy. You may sit down. The government will deal with all the other issues, everyone will have a job. The Ministry of Energy shall be created. This is because we need more order in the energy sector. Oil and gas are in one place, hard energy is in another, power lines in the third, atomic energy in the fourth. This creates a lot of confusion. This may be a return to the previous practices, but I believe it is time to consolidate the entire energy sector in one place. This ministry shall assume the functions and powers of the Ministry of Oil and Gas, the functions of the Ministry of Industry and New Technologies in the field of energy, and the functions of the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources in the field of environment protection. It will also be dealing with everything related to development of the green economy, including working out its policies, coordinating and controlling the development.
Политику, координацию, контроль возлагается на министерство.
After thinking and discussing, I have decided to appoint Vladimir Shkolnik as the Minister of Energy. He is, at this stage, the most appropriate and experienced person and the person most knowledgeable of the industry. Do you agree, or will you refuse? How can I refuse the President? Uzakbay Karabalin shall be appointed Deputy Minister and shall be supervising the same field of work as before, and helping the new minister. He shall be the first Deputy Minister. Next, the issues related to the environment will be transferred here. Nurlan Kaparov has been leading this work very well, and he can stay in the ministry as Deputy Minister, or I can offer you to become President of Kazatomprom National Company. Inform Masimov about your decision. Or do you want to give the answer right now? Kazatomprom would be interesting. Okay. The functions and powers of the Ministry of Emergency Situations shall be transferred to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, as it is done in many countries. Here, Kalmukhanbek Kasimov shall be appointed the minister, and Boshko shall be his deputy and will continue doing his job. You have been working well, there is no reprimand, and you are not old yet, so everything is ahead. The rest of the ministries shall remain as they are, but with some changes in their powers. In particular, the function related to budget planning shall be transferred from the Ministry of Economy and Budget Planning to the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Agriculture shall assume the functions of the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources in the areas of fishing industry, management of water resources, forests and wildlife. Mamedbekov, is that correct? Right? You may take your seat. All the information technology-related issues shall stay with Askar Jumagaliyev. The Prime Minister shall have only 2 deputies. I will be naming them today. The first Deputy Prime Minister is Sagintayev. He is already working in the position. And Gulshara Abdikalikova will be the Deputy Prime Minister for Human Development. That is it. 2 deputies. And a very well-known and long-debated issue: reorganization of the Agency for Civil Service Affairs and the Agency for Fighting Economic and Corruption Crimes. There have been many questions around this agency and a lot of criticism. But we need this agency. So,
финансовая полиция будет упразднена с передачей функций и полномочий по предупреждению, выявлению, пресечению, раскрытию, расследованию.
the financial police shall be abolished, and its functions and powers to prevent, detect, suppress, investigate, and solve corruption crimes and offenses shall be transferred to the newly created Agency for Civil Service Affairs and Countering Corruption. And the functions related to economic and financial offenses shall be transferred to the Ministry of Finance. Here we need legislative changes, because this body will need investigative functions. This would clean the Agency for Fighting Corruption and make it more effective. You see what we had here? There were 2 wings in the same entity. One was fighting corruption, the other one was dealing with economic offenses. This means that in the same agency, there were guys handling the economic part and pressurizing business to get something out of them. And these guys were not afraid to do so, because the officials fighting corruption were working in the same entity and were their pals. But from now on, this new agency for countering corruption will be overseeing those handling tax and business offenses. So the latter will have an authority supervising them. I believe this is proper. Kairat Kozhamzharov shall be appointed as the chairman of the new Agency for Civil Service Affairs and Countering Corruption. He has ample experience of working in the administration and in fighting against corruption. I think he will be a success, especially in the latter. Alihan Baymenov has put the civil service back on track, and if he accepts, he will be continuing what he has been doing and shall be appointed the deputy minister. This approach corresponds with international practices. Former chairman of the financial police Rashid Tusubekov will also be offered another position. This approach, compliant with international practices, will help us consistently build a preventive system of fighting against corruption. All the other heads of administrative bodies that I have not mentioned here, and those who are staying in their positions, should optimize their agencies and ministries. The structures should have no duplicating positions. The government also needs to optimize the number of committees in the ministries. As a rule, ministerial committees are those that are organized in accordance with territorial division, and the committees and agencies that do not have their territorial structure should be reorganized into ministerial departments. In this respect, I herewith instruct the government to take all the necessary steps stemming from these points. For more news, please visit www.en.tengrinews.kz.